Okay, today we're going to be talking about the planet Mercury. Mercury is the force in our consciousness that is analyzing the concrete world around us. It's how we intellectualize our space. It's how we analyze objective reality, investigate this objective reality, and then process our processing of this information. That's the first level of Mercury, our raw mental processing power. The second level of Mercury is how we then remanifest this information back into the world. It's how we mold reality and manage our reality. And so we do that primarily through communication. So communication is one of the main functions of Mercury, how we are interacting with this fabric of reality that we're objectively analyzing. And then the third level of Mercury is how Mercury is spiritualizing us from our understandings about how reality works. And it spiritualizes us in a way that we come to deeper truths about how reality is ordered. And we'll talk about that towards the end of the video. But first, it's this raw intellectual power that we have, Mercury. And one way to measure Mercury that has been created is doing an IQ test. An IQ test is analyzing someone's ability to process details and then group those details into patterns and then regurgitate the understanding of what those patterns mean. So someone who's doing that really quickly has a high IQ. Someone who's doing that slowly doesn't have a high IQ, but they're still using their mind to process information in the same way. They're just not doing it as fast. So Mercury is this raw processing power that we have. And one term to say that it's how we learn. Mercury is the force that's learning throughout our life. And this learning ability that we have, Mercury rules the ages from 3 to 12. These are the years that we do our primary schooling, when we're learning the rules of the game of life. And so when we're learning, we're taking in all this information, and the three most important components of our foundation for our intelligence are our ability to read, to write, basically to understand language and how to use language and how language is ordered, and then mathematics, being able to quantify our reality using numbers. And language and math are codes. They're raw, objective codes that by themselves don't have any meaning. They're just letters, they're just numbers. But placed together in patterns, they have meaning. And so Mercury rules over mathematics in this way, and one's ability to process mathematics and to quantify things, and then also language, our ability to use the codes of language in order to describe and articulate the reality that we surround ourselves with. So young children, as they're learning these rules, these codes, they're taking in information, they're learning about how life works. And children with extroverted personalities are learning through communicating socially with other people, and they're interacting with other. Even introverted children are still interacting, and they're learning through these interactions how life is ordered and the rules of society or the rules of life, how our material realm is ordered. Children with more introverted personalities prefer to learn about the world through reading, through more of this passive learning process. They're able to read books, and then they're still learning about how the world works, but doing it in a more introverted fashion, being less social. So that's that first process of Mercury. That's the Mercury in us that's reading, investigating, and analyzing the objective, concrete world, and then processing this information. The next step is what we have to do is the next step of the Mercury force is then remanifesting this information back into the fabric of reality. And as I mentioned, we do this through communicating. And we communicate what is in our consciousness through language. And even if you're not speaking, if you're psychically communicating with another person, those thoughts have material reality. So even though you can't see them, it's materially being put back into the world to mold the world. But most of us have this we communicate primarily verbally, and when we speak, we don't see the sound, but that sound has concrete, it's a concrete matter. And as we're putting sound vibration, as we're putting this matter back into reality, we change reality. So we change reality slowly through the manifesting process of saying what we want, but also just talking with other people, interacting with what's in our mind socially by through just basic communication, practical communication. And so it's this concretization of our intellectual world, making it manifest and working with this web, this fabric of reality. This is all Mercury. Mercurial abilities have everything to do with one's ability to communicate what's in their own mind. And so in this articulation process through verbalizing. And so one really interesting part about communicating the patterns that we discover in reality is through the sense of humor. And Mercury rules over humor. So what is humor? What's funny? Things that are funny are describing reality in a light way. Because what makes us laugh, things that are funny are deep down true. Things that you can exaggerate the truth, but deep down there's still a truth. So things that aren't funny, they're not funny because there's no connection to how the world really works. But things that are funny, a comedian that's able to articulate deeper patterns and then communicating that in a light way is a way people prefer to absorb information when it's not dense and serious. Things that are less serious and more playful understandings of reality, we can absorb that because it's easier and it's lighter to absorb that information. So a comedian that makes us laugh, we're able to bring in the truthful patterns of reality in an easier way. So the role of the comedian, the joker, it's really an important role in society. And so that's one archetype of Mercury, being the joker. And the joker's job in the kingdom was to tell the truth to the king, tell the truth to the powerful person in a light way so that the king can understand it. And that's one of the roles of the comedian in society, is to tell truth to power and do it in a light way. I'm going to do a separate video on this archetype of Mercury, the joker, the playful molder of reality, and communicating these patterns to powerful forces. It's a very critical role in how that can be used and then misused in society. But the other major archetype of Mercury is the prince. The prince is the functionary in the kingdom of a literal kingdom, but also the kingdom of ourself, of managing the affairs of the kingdom, managing our affairs, and making sure that our life is being ordered in a way that works. Because eventually the prince is going to inherit the kingdom. You have to know how the kingdom works if you're going to inherit the responsibilities of the decisions of the leadership role that the king has. He's sacrificing by being the leader, by doing what's necessary for the kingdom. But it's Mercury's job to understand how all of that works. Again, it's seeing how life works and seeing how and managing those affairs of life. So people with good Mercuries are good managers. They're people that can be good at business, because when a business manager is taking the constituent parts, getting the details, and making sure all of these things are flowing together. So people with good Mercuries are going to have this ability to order things in proper ways. People with bad Mercuries, they don't have the ability to organize objective things around them in a good way, or seeing multifaceted uses for things. People with good Mercuries are also good financial managers, because again, it's managing it's managing objective things in an efficient way. So this is the force Mercury in us, managing our life. But then and again, this managing is everything to do with communication. Good managers are good communicators. They're able to interact socially and be able to explain and express what's in their minds in very good ways. And ideally, doing it in light and funny ways is someone that is able to manage people, not just managing numbers, but manage people, manage social situations in good ways. This is all Mercury, managing the tangible reality. So, and as we get older, we become better and better at seeing the order of life. And we use Mercury to become more excellent at our skills and abilities. So Mercury is our ability to learn, and then learn about whatever we're good at, learn whatever abilities and talents that we can use in order to work with the fabric of reality. So Mercury is our talents and our skills, our skill sets. But as we get older, we get better and better at mastering these skill sets and becoming masters and doing whatever we're good at in a more effective and fluid way. So any kind of job that there is, you could say, well, you don't need a good Mercury to be this job. For example, you don't need a great Mercury to be a great doctor. Doctor is a different skill set, it's a different healing modalities. But if you have a great Mercury, you're going to be a great doctor because that's your ability. You want to get better and better at that ability you have. So Mercury is always on the process of learning in order to improve our effectiveness in molding the reality. This is Mercury. Mercury is a manifesting planet. And in transit, working with transits in astrology, Mercury needs to be involved in the transits because Mercury brings things into real life. And it's all about, I keep using that term, the fabric of reality. So again, as we get older, we're understanding deeper and deeper patterns in this fabric of reality around us. And this brings us to the spiritual side of Mercury, where Mercury is coming to deeper understandings, deeper truths about how reality works. And this is when more of an intuitive side of objectivity comes in. We don't have to keep reprocessing the same information if we know if we see cause and effect. If we see this 2 + 2 = 4, I don't have to keep rethinking about how 2 + 2 = 4. I just know that 2 + 2 = 4, and all of information gathering eventually gets to a point when you just know that those things are true and you don't have to always be reprocessing it. So the more advanced Mercury becomes, the more one uses their ability to intellectualize and understand the objective workings of reality. They're coming into deeper understandings of what is truth and what is real and unreal. And so this is the process of becoming awakened. And the name of Mercury in Vedic astrology is Buddha. Buddha means awakening. And it's this process of awakening to the deepest levels of truth. The deepest level of truth is that everything is one thing, that all of reality is made up of one single energy, but everything appears different. So on one level, we have to learn to use our Mercury to see the differences, and then we're gradually putting these differences together into patterns. And then the highest level of Mercury is seeing that all of these patterns are just one fabric of reality, one pattern, it's one thing. God is everything. The universe is all one thing. And it's this most profound level of seeing what is real and unreal. And that level is that everything is real. Everything has an element of truth to it. And that's an intuitive, it's an intuitive sensation. It's an intuitive knowledge. And Mercury, taken to the highest level, has awakened to the truthfulness of all reality being made up of one thing, although it all appears to be different things. So in this process of coming to the awakening that everything is one, we're playing with reality. We're playing with how reality is ordered. And in Vedic astrology and in Vedic philosophy, all the planets have an avatar. They all have an avatar is when the supreme, when basically God comes in a human form, it's divine consciousness inhabiting a human body. And for Mercury, it's Siddhartha Gautama, who became the Buddha. And the Buddha, he was born as a prince, again, Mercury. And he had primarily human consciousness because the avatars are typically pure divine consciousness in a human form. But this avatar had a more of a mixture between the human consciousness and divine consciousness. But this person, he started off in his kingdom, and he wanted to know the deeper truths of reality because he was noticing suffering and death in the kingdom that he hadn't interacted with before. So what he decided to do was to go and understand why reality had these elements to it, to understand deeper truths about why there's suffering and death, and come to more of a spiritual realization of how reality works how the finite reality works, because it's a finite truth that death is involved with everyone's life. So he went off and he left the kingdom he was going to inherit. He left his newborn son and his wife at the age of 29 to go and discover these truths. And as he was discovering the truths of reality, one of his main truths that he found was balancing reality and balancing our world and managing our world in an effective way, because he was starving himself to the point where he wasn't able to come to deeper understandings of truth, because his body was in such a decrepit situation. He wasn't dealing with and managing the finite material body that he was in. And he realized he needed to manage his material existence if he was going to have if he was going to develop spiritually. And he decided not to become a complete, to ignore his material concerns. And when we're using our Mercury, we have to be always in touch with what the material realities was. So his solution was to balance out his material needs in order for his spiritual needs to advance. And so when he came to the conscious awakening that everything is one, he was able to do that with being in harmony and in balance with his material life. And he came to an awakened divine state of mind of seeing the universal truths that God is everything. It's all one energy. And so this is that spiritualizing force of Mercury, of balancing our life, managing our life in an effective way, and manifesting back into life and communicating with the world around us, so that we can become more excellent at whatever we're good at, become more advanced in whatever skills and abilities that we have, and then finally coming to those deeper universal truths of the reality of everything is all connected, everything is one. And so Mercury it's this really interesting, fascinating, and curious planet that is all about how we're interacting with and then developing a deeper understanding of how the fabric of our external world is ordered. So this is the force of Mercury that we all have, that we're all using all the time. We're using Mercury to analyze constantly and investigate. And the next planet we're going to be discussing is Jupiter.